I don't know if any other day that would have won that race. No idea. When we set off, we set off hard, obviously with intent, but we really set off as one crew, and we were willing to go into battle. It's not going to feel great.
Yeah.
It's not going to feel pretty. It's going to feel the noise, everything, all your cues are off because you've suddenly got just massive noise at the start line. You never have that in a rowing race. So there wasn't a moment where we let off. Every stroke was a chance to punish yourself harder. Being dickheads for most of the year, I really sort of make it worthwhile. When you find something that works, celebrate it. Don't shy away from it. Don't think, well, I've got to work on my weaknesses. Yes, of course you're going to work on your weaknesses, but work out how that attribute is going to help your crew. I live for that. Don't be afraid to stick out. Don't be afraid to break stuff. If it's not broken, don't fix it. Well, if it's not broken, sometimes just smash it to pieces anyway. Don't be afraid to dial it up or change it or rip it apart, because what you were doing, you'll be able to get back to, because it's what you were doing. It's called muscle memory. You will get back to it. It's more robust than you think. Just throw in a stupid exercise. Do something to challenge yourself in a different way. If you know it's the exercise you're particularly weak at, then challenge yourself to do it in an even more stupid way or harder way, and discover and problem solve the fuck out of it and work out actually how you can do it better. Because even if it makes you slower for a couple of days afterwards, I'm sure the learning you'll get from it will mean that you will come out stronger. The worst case is the knowledge that you can start a race badly and you can still take action. You still got that ability to get back to what you know you can do. And that is a form of resilience which you have to have. Because there are races where you just will get knocked off. You will hit a buoy, you will do something. And part of the resilience of being a high-performance athlete or performing at your best is minimizing those times when something out of your control happens. We go through halfway, and it's like, I can't even see their stern. This is okay. This is right. They're definitely going to blow. They're definitely going to sort of realize they need to just calm the fuck down. And then we sort of top 50, 1500. Shit, none of that was worth it if we don't do something right now. You got your peripheral vision. If you can't see their stern, you're fucked. What does it feel like to do your power strokes on an ergo? When you're flat out, just 10, just going batshit crazy. It was that. And then you do that again. And then slowly I started to see their stern. And then you think, fuckers, I've got you. I'm not going to stop now.
Hey, what is up? Welcome to Last Stroke Counts. Today's guest is a triple Olympic champion and fundraiser for London Youth Rowing. Please welcome Andrew Triggs Hodge to the podcast.
Hey guys, how's it going?
Good, thanks for coming in. First episode in our new podcast studio, which has started to take shape. There's a few bits and pieces ago. We noted there's not any Molesey memorabilia on the walls, maybe a little bit too much pink for Andy, but I'm sure we can get past that at this stage. A highly requested guest, obviously. I'm sure you know why. So it'd be really interesting to get into your rowing history, but also what you're doing now, still sort of involved in rowing in different ways. I always find it interesting to see how rowers manage to stay in the sport without having to row, which is fun. I think we should start where we do with everyone and kind of find out how you found rowing in the first place.
So I found rowing at university, Staffordshire University. Did my first year, sort of seeing out the end of a bit of rugby, which didn't really work out for me for a whole host of reasons, but got to Freshers' Fair in my second year, and I was talking to a friend, Rebecca Wolfendale, if she's listening, and she said, try rowing, it's fun, it's good social, it'll get you fit, and that was it. So I went down to Freshers' Fair and signed up, and the coach there, a guy called Ed Green, I think he was a rower from school, and he was a coach, student, athlete role. And he'd made it his mission to kind of make something of this little rowing club at Staffs. And so, yeah, when me and then another guy called John Beresford turned up, who was a little bit like yourself, massive, ex-rugby player, I think he thought his Christmas had come.
Finally.
Even if I was a bit short.
What age was that when you first started?
I was 19. So our first sessions were sort of like September, October, 1998.
Wow.
Yeah, so
that's usually quite a late start to the sport. Normally people tend to like find it about 14, 15, but it just your example shows that you don't need to start very, very early to be successful.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, Pete Reed, similar. He's found it at Navy. I think rowing is one of those sports, as long as you've had an active childhood, whether it's in sport or actually just running around woods and being in nature or whatever it is, actually, if you've got the attributes to be a rower, then, you want to hit your peak at like 30. Yeah. That's what you want to be striving to. I'm a big fan of if you start too early, you'll finish early.
Yeah, and also no one starts rowing early. In the UK, most, like the J14 is the first age that you can race at. So most people are starting 13, 14. It's not like, say, skiing, where if you're not on your skis by age 3, you're never going to be competitive. Yeah, I think that's also a reason why rowers are maybe a little bit more sympathetic with beginners, because we can all remember it, because we were all beginners when we were teenagers.
Yeah, that's a good point, yeah.
Yeah, whereas I think if you were a beginner when you were 3, you kind of forgot what it's like to be a beginner. And you have no patience for a 20-year-old beginner.
Imagine like starting a sport when you're 5 and everyone's telling you like, oh, you passed it.
Yeah. Well, you look at gymnastics, swimming, the issues they're having, that's a really strong point. Like, remembering where you started.
But it's interesting, we were just talking as well, someone came to get their own machine fixed this morning, and he was talking specifically about why you don't see some of these schoolboy rowers go all the way. And I think it's like what you were saying, there's so much pressure to succeed at school level that I think some people come out of that system burnt out. Yeah. Had enough.
Which is inevitable, because the school wants the best performance from that kid at that point. It wants to be the pinnacle of that moment, which means pushing them harder than what they probably should be.
Yeah.
It's a really difficult one, because you want kids to enjoy sport and you want them to get the most out of it. You're right, some sports, they need to be elite performers by 18, like tennis. Swimming's kind of strangely early. Gymnastics,
very early, yeah.
But it's horses for courses. And in rowing, the sort of, the nice thing is most rowers work out that they're really crap at most sports before they find the sport of rowing, unless they've got, the school boat club or the club down the road. So
yeah, it was really interesting. We spoke to Rosie Popper, who was in the Australian women's four for Tokyo, and her parents both rowed for Australia in 74, and she was really enjoying rowing as a junior, wanted to go for the national team, and her parents had said no. Like, you shouldn't. If you want to be a great rower, you want to row for a long time, you want to be a senior rower, don't bother with the junior stuff.
Have a break, do something else, get that out of your system.
But not everyone has two ex-Olympic rowers as parents to guide them, which is...
Well, I mean, on the contrary, I think there's a lot of Olympic parents who'd be like, come on, let's do more and more, and,
True.
And I'd say that's a fantastic parenting. And if there's any, parental advice, I mean, that's what I'm doing for my boys, is definitely not encouraging them to do, to be frank, any sports at the moment.
How old are they at the moment?
They're 6, 7, and 10.
Okay.
So I think when they get to secondary school, we'll start letting them do some stuff.
Yeah.
But at the moment, I'd much rather see them, kicking the ball around the garden or beating each other with sticks and going into the woods and just, finding that activity of enjoyment in life.
Yeah.
And then they're taking their time to find competitive sport, because there's no hurry. I mean, there's a whole life of it. So.
That's the thing. Like, before I found rowing, I was pretty crap at sport, but like I remember spending my summers just like, spending 12 hours at a football pitch and just kicking the ball and just riding my bicycle until it was dark, and then like for the next few days the legs were pretty sore and everything, but like it wasn't organized sport, but it was still like a good level of activity that I guess counted for something then when I took up sport.
But critically, it's, you had to create it.
Mm-hmm.
It wasn't a system you dropped into. And that is a massive psychological step as well for a kid to take, like, I'm bored, go and do something. All right. And they have to figure out something. They create something. They love it. They do it for like 10 hours a day.
Yeah.
They get their mates involved. That's business.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do something you enjoy, figure it out, work at it, and then enjoy it. And then you're not working a day in your life. I mean, look what you guys have done here. It's absolutely brilliant. And I'm sure you come to work.
Yeah.
And I'm sure there are hard days. But look what you're building. It's fantastic.
Yeah, I feel like it's been finishing rowing and then going, well, what can I do that means I don't have to have a 9 to 5? Like,
Yeah.
How can I avoid the 9 to 5?
Yeah.
I did find a 9 to 5 straight after I finished rowing. Did it for 3 years and I was like, I'm out, Tom.
Oh, yeah.
So, Pete, get back down here.
Yeah.
Well, I think for all those kids who kind of drop into those structured sessions, basically you say, well, this is how you're going to live your life as a kid. It's, school, sports, bedtime, meal times. If it's all totally buttoned down, that's how they're going to live life. Okay, give me that 9 to 5. I want to watch this amount of TV, this, and this is what I expect. And I think you wake up 30 years later and that's massive midlife crisis. And
yeah, I neither of my parents had the sort of 9 to 5. I feel like I had sort of especially I've had, business owners and stuff in the family and things like that. Like I've been able to see multiple different ways to do it. I remember sat at rowing once in between sessions, sat at the breakfast table, and one of the guys just was like, yes. And I was like, what? And he was like, it's Friday, chips for tea. And I was like, you're 25. You can have chips whenever you... I was like, wow, this is like a level of organisation that I feel like I don't want to live that life of being like, well, we're going to eat this then, and we're going to watch that TV programme then.
I literally bumped into a friend the other day and I was like, oh, should we go and get some food? I haven't seen them in years. And he was like, oh, no, I can't. It's takeaway Thursday.
yeah,
I was like, mate.
yeah.
Have some spontaneity in your life.
So in terms of organisation at university and then enjoying it, when did you first start really figuring out that rowing could be something that you'd like to take further? And I guess, how was it organised? What was it about it that kept you coming back?
Well, I think like many stories that I've heard about rowers getting into the sport, like rowing, certainly from the sport perspective, is something you're actually good at. So you get some positive feedback and that feels good. Well, I'll come back tomorrow. And you kind of keep that day-to-day perspective because you kind of actually, someone's actually saying, come back. Yeah, this is your program. And you're like, oh, crap. And for me, I mean, that was life personified. I was like, shit at everything. So when I finally kind of found something I could do where someone took an interest in me coming back, but also started to attach their pride and success into what I was doing, that filled me with, it gave me for the first time a sense of responsibility. Like actually, I've got a crew around me. I've got a coach he purposely failed 2 years of his degree so he could stay in the rowing coach, supporting the rowing club.
Is that Ed Green you're talking about?
Yeah. Yeah. Nutter. I mean, he's chalk and cheese. He's a great guy. I know he's...
He's at Kingston now.
Yeah.
KGS, yeah.
Sorry, KGS.
Yeah. He's passionate. I've seen what he's done. He was a junior coach at Molesey. I've seen how, he can inspire hundreds of kids. And I can see, he's... Anyway, so that's what he did with me right at the beginning, and a small group of people. And, he was performance focused. So a lot kind of didn't fit into that. Lot just did want to row and not go through the performance bit, which obviously he didn't offer. And the club didn't have the resources to have a sort of participation coach, as with so much of the sport. So, that was when I first started the sport, 2 years. And there was a nice sense of, because we were an old polytechnic, we dined out on that.
The
underdog attitude, definitely. I'm really sort of, and again, because I came from Yorkshire, and my dad was a Southerner, and my mum's Norwegian. So when we were in Yorkshire, I didn't really kind of fit. When I came to Staffordshire, as a quite underperforming university, I'd say at the time, certainly at the time. Again, just how do you fit? And as we were talking earlier, that notion of being a teenager and just generally not fitting, there was a lot, and then not being wanted. My grades were crap. I was useless at sport. It was really, as a kid growing up, fitted into this. I don't fit, I don't work anywhere. I don't have a tribe.
Yeah.
So when I came to Staffs and I started to feel like a sense of being part of that team, obviously it was very easy to hate to sort of target, to use the Brookses and probably the Leanders as, they've got it all. They've got big budgets, they've got great boats, they've got people all wanting to go and row there. And we're this little shithouse university. And we're going to try. And we never did. I mean, we were miles away.
Yeah.
But that sort of keyed into a psychology which had been born a long time ago as a kid. So then when I finished university, we did have a sort of part-time coach. And she told us, like, on sort of the last day, it was after Henley, we got through one round of the Brit, beat Lancaster Grammar School. And then I think we got knocked out by Goldie. And a guy ended up rowing with him the next year. But she said, look, if you ever decided to do this properly, you might be all right one day. And that moment was like, okay. So I then decided to take effectively like a gap year from getting a proper job. Bearing in mind, I did environmental science, and I applied to like 50 companies, just like trying to get something. Half of them replied saying no. The other half didn't even bother replying. So I had no job to go to. There's no prospects. Well, sod it. Let's go to a club somewhere and just see if I can do it. And then I got a job.
What club was that?
That was Molesey.
Oh, okay.
And then so I was picking between Molesey and Scullers.
Yeah.
Sent an email to both. Got a reply back from Pete Shepherd. Nothing back from Scullers. So headed off to Molesey. After I found the place, it took me all day to using a A to Z to try and find the place.
That was back then.
Yeah. And that was the start of it, really. Mum and Dad helped me for the first few months to pay rent, and then I got a job, and then I didn't need their help anymore, so I was self-sufficient, paying subs and living life. So I was, for a year and a half, I was training 7 till 9 and working 10 till 6 and then training 7 till 8:30.
So you started off as like a genuine club rower, basically.
Yeah. No one, again, no one picked me. I think Shep, he quickly saw that there might have been something to work with.
Good.
So he kind of really worked hard to make sure I had a job. The job I got with was one of the guys at Molesey, who he owned this little design company. So I was just sat in his back office, falling asleep most afternoons.
Yeah.
He was amazing to give me, enough to survive. And then facilitate, what the extra sessions around the club sessions. And yeah, it was, his kind of belief, and that's what Shep's sort of selfless side does. He just wants to give. So anyway, a year and a half of that, got into the under-23 team, ended up, that was my first World Cup, and that's the first time because my mum was always quite skeptical. She's like, "Why are you rowing?" I remember one really awkward conversation one night. I'd sort of been a couple of months down in Molesey, and
are you going to go and get a real job now?
Basically, not are you, like, you need to.
Oh, okay.
Stop messing around. Rowing's never going to pay your way. I mean, lo and behold, she was right. But it was this real moment of like reality check, and do I really want this? And I finished the phone call and I was like, yeah, Mum, I've got to try this. But that was the moment I was like, right, it's on my own. I'm doing this alone.
I really like what you said about when someone told you could be good at it, you felt a sense of responsibility to them, which I think is quite interesting. And I think that's kind of, I remember the same thing. I didn't make the junior team. I kind of got some trials, whatever, never did it, left school and went to Leander, was still just sort of, same thing as you, a few months in, thinking, I'm at the bottom of the pack.
Yeah.
God knows what's going to happen. And sat down, Brian Armstrong was like, no, I really think you can make it. And then all of a sudden it's like, oh, this is a real thing now. So again, like for you, your first coach and then Shep as well.
Yeah.
I bumped into Shep at Nat Schools 2 weeks ago. I think I can get him on the podcast.
Yeah, good. You should do it.
I'd love to get him.
He is an absolutely amazing guy. Like, yeah, you should definitely get him on.
Yeah, I think it would be really great because I've always said that he has an incredibly difficult job. Like, sometimes you can argue about whether you think a coach has made the right job selection. But I always say, whenever we were sort of arguing about that, I'd always say, right, but would you want that job?
Yeah,
exactly. And everyone goes, like, no way. No way do I want to make those decisions.
Couldn't have put it better myself. Exactly. Yeah. You put yourself in tough positions, and that's the people who really count.
Yeah. So was the move to Oxford, was that to try and show Mum that you were doing something else worthwhile as well as rowing, or?
No, that was an opportunity. I mean, like when I got selected for under 23s out to Lynch in Austria.
Was that still the Nations Cup back then, or was it official under 23?
Oh gosh, was it?
What year was that? I think it was 2001 was the last under 23. Last Nations Cup.
Yeah, it might have been the last Nations Cup.
Yeah,
it was basically the same thing. It just had a different name.
Exactly. Yeah. So, so that moment when Mum sort of, when I said like, "Do you want to come out to Linz?" and I've been selected, she was like, "I get it now." That moment and seeing all the nations, and she was like, "Okay, I'm on board." Which coincided with the moment I didn't need her because of the financial side. Getting supported by a lottery started to come in and those sorts of things. So, but no, Oxford was Robin Bourne-Taylor. We were talking before Athens about what's going to happen next and all those sorts of things, and he said, "Well, you should apply." Like, good on you, Robin. Like, it's nice of you to say that, but I'm not ever going to get into Oxford. I've never passed my English GCSE, which I think is like a bolt-on prerequisite to get in. I didn't even do A-levels. Just my academic side is absolutely. And he was like, "Look, while it is about that, it's not about that. It's about the passion. It's about what you can give, whether it's, okay, from the university admission side, it's not about sport, but it's what the sports side has adopted. If you can demonstrate your commitment to that course, then they think differently." So at the time, I was obviously environmental science was my thing. I wanted to go into water side, not because of rowing, just because that was my passion in the environmental sector. And there was a new course, which was a water science policy management course. It didn't even have any rowing lectures in there. It's really... I did get a bit of ribbon that it was becoming the new rowers course. Yeah, obviously, and I think they have had quite a few rowers since. But anyway, it just made sense to apply, and obviously you de-risk it. Like they're going to say no. Yeah. So when they did accept me, there was a real sort of like, my life was starting to move, obviously, because, getting into national team and representing your country is a massive thing. Yeah. But then when you start to address major issues from your childhood, i.e., are you any good at anything else apart from sport now? And you go to Oxford, you think, Christ, if someone else there believes in me, then what else is possible? And then, that Oxford year, obviously, I won trials the year before Oxford. I knew that I was able to do something quite good in the sport. Obviously, Athens was a real check on my sense of what I could do. So I had a huge amount to prove, but I felt like, I've got something. For the first time, I was like, I can see it. There's a big wall to climb, but fuck me, I've got some rocket boosters that I'm going to shove up someone's ass to make something happen. Yeah. And it was really Oxford that, again, it was a different style of coaching, different structure, whole different sort of, obviously competition. And it was that change which really illuminated some of the deficiencies that I experienced in the first few years, gave me the courage to think, well, actually, hang on a minute. I think I need to think about how I approach this sport differently and how I start being a driver in what it should be.
What would you say with some of those things, maybe then, the shifts?
Well, it was basically being aware of that coach-athlete dynamic, our athlete subordinate. What do the best athletes do and behave, their responsibility. It's sort of things like that. Nothing specific. It was nothing like, do you row with this technique or that technique? That's all superfluous. It's really, it was the culture.
The shift in going, this was something I did for fun, now this is my job. How do I do this job well, to the best of its ability?
No, it was much bigger than that, because rowing had become a lifestyle, a very young lifestyle. I was learning a huge amount. There was never a sort of sense of a job about it. Like you say with here, you could say it's your job, but it's your passion. It's your, I'm sure if you get a call at 9 PM, you're probably going to answer it.
Yeah.
It's that sort of, you start thinking, when everything starts being decided on, is it good for rowing? You're not in the job anymore.
Yeah.
And you start to get into a dangerous territory in hindsight, because you start making some really big decisions very easily without really weighing up the whole scene of life.
Yeah. I've referred to that before as, I feel like rowing is a difficult thing to do, but it's like a single problem life, right? Like, I think now with the business, and I've got a million different things to do, and I've got to do that job and this, and I'm trying to go and see my parents, and someone's getting married, and you're like, oh God, how do I choose? Whereas when you're a rower, you're like, it's simple. Will it help me with rowing? No, then I'm not doing it.
So I think you're getting closest to what Jürgen had. Maybe a bit of David Tanner is his COO. How do all the decisions they were having to make, and the judgment calls, there's the athlete, it's kind of, I don't know how that would represent, I don't think you really can represent that in normal life, in business. But what you're experiencing and that toughness of what you're having now is exactly as you said, like being the person to make those decisions. Would you like to be there?
Yeah.
And then when they said no, actually you said yes.
For this, yeah. I feel more confident in what I do now. I never really had confidence in rowing, but yeah. So let's talk about Athens. You mentioned it. Obviously, for the 8, Sydney went quite well, and the 4.
Yes.
You did 02 and 03. You were at the back end, but still the A final. How did Athens go? How was it sort of received by British rowing and the crew?
2003.
Did I get that wrong? Were you not in the 8th, 5th?
In 2003, we were bronze.
Oh, bronze.
We were level with the Americans until like 500 meters to go. Then they started off and went off with the Canadians. But we were like that. I mean, that was a really key moment because we were training at Hammersmith, and they'd really, by then, that beginning of that year, they split off the old Sydney guys into the Cox 4. And then the 8 was a bunch of all the new kids. Partridges, Dan Ousley, Tom Stallard, myself, Josh. Josh. Yeah, Josh was with us. Yeah, and then I think, Tanner came up to us and he was like, "Oh, we were not expecting that," and that was a real moment of, you're like fully loaded spunk gun like that. We were a bunch of little dickheads. It was amazing, don't
think there's I'm not sure, but one of the best feelings is certainly achieving something when you're not supposed to. Which didn't think so.
Especially if David Tanner gets so impressed as well. That is a hard man to please.
Absolutely. Milan in 2003 was awesome. It was a massive headwind. It was really tough conditions. But again, that in hindsight, that that Milan was a testament to, it doesn't matter if you believe in what you're doing is right or wrong, as long as you do it together. And that is 100%, that's the beauty of rowing.
Yeah.
It's, if you have buy-in, begruntled buy-in, passionate buy-in, doesn't matter. As long as you have buy-in, then you can do something really cool.
Yeah, I used to say when coaching novices, I was like, I could have the eight Olympic champions in this boat.
Yeah.
But if they don't row together, you'll beat them.
Yeah,
exactly. That's number one. Everything else comes second to do it together. Yeah.
So coming on to your next bit then about Athens,
man,
that was the wake up moment,
right?
Of realizing what happens when you don't have buy-in.
Okay.
So we had better rowers, more powerful rowers. We were obviously going for the Olympics, for many of us, all of us, our first Olympics. Yeah, it was like, this is it. But what we didn't have was real buy-in. We had enough time to really work out the fault lines of, what some wanted to do, what some others didn't want to do. There was so much pressure in the system because of what happened in the pair to the four that probably the management wasn't, we didn't self-manage, and that was definitely our fault. And I think we are totally responsible for that. We are without doubt to blame. The coaches didn't see it and actually probably made it worse by their approach to the pressure that they were under. And I think, Athens was a really big, if I can say, learning process for the whole system. It was, it really bore out in the result, coming last. Not many eights in British eights had come bolt last for a long time.
Yeah. I mean, I think that's key what you said, you can't always avoid mistakes, but you can always try and learn from them. So mistakes get made. Like, we're all human. We've spoken a little bit before about, I think a lot of rowers assume coaches are just perfect, but they're not. They're also trying. They're also things are changing, adjusting all the time. So that's really the best thing you can do from when you make mistakes. I think you always don't learn a lot from winning often. You say, great, won that. You don't even sort of go back and think, what could we have done better? Because you don't need to. But you do when it doesn't go well.
I hope the result didn't cast too big of a shadow on the fact that you actually went to your first Olympics, started representing your country and everything. What was that like as an experience? Obviously, that was just 6 years, I think, after you've started the sport.
Yeah, just shy of 6 years. I mean, I was too young to really understand, I think, what the implications were. And also, my character is, I like to live in the present and the near future. That's where I'm most happy. So as soon as we came off, as soon as we were, the day after that final, I was focused on today and the near future, which was, and Athens was, I think, one of the last of the sort of unregulated Olympics where athletes could just turn up at the back door of an event and get in. So for that following week, we had the most amazing party. It was the Red Bull party, it was the sailing party, it was this party, it was getting in at 6 o'clock every morning, going into the food hall and eating crap. It was just a relentless week of just trying to forget, which for me was quite easy. So that second week was a real blast, absolute, which isn't what an Olympics should be, right? I mean, the saddest thing about that whole thing was one night we came in after some party, great night, we were all in the food hall, and it's pretty empty, obviously, it's 6 o'clock in the morning, we're all still drunk, eating McDonald's or some crap, and then there's this guy walking around really pissy, what's his problem? That's the Olympics. Obviously, it was Dean Macy preparing for his second day of his decathlon, and you're like, oh, fuck. That's that when you emerge from your bubble as a selfish athlete, and you have to be selfish. There's no two ways about it. when you prioritize yourself over everything else, and you emerge from that, and then you realize the impact of what you have or what you do. And for that moment was on a guy who was still running. And if someone was our hotel, pissed, we came down for breakfast, we'd have bloody gone mad.
Yeah.
And again, talking about that responsibility to those around you. And it's continual. Maybe it's just my nature. I'm a bit of a dickhead most of the time. So I'd always say something inappropriate or wrong, or something that was trying to be funny that isn't. Happens all the time. But it's when you have the influence of an athlete, like the size, the volume, then you really learn something. Yeah.
Well, yeah,
so if Dean Macy's listening, I'm really sorry.
I'd be very happy if he is.
I'll send the clip to him.
So yeah, like you said, I guess after the party, time to sort of take stock, and the next year sort of made a big change for you. Was that you sort of said that was the time to get serious, or realizing that there are other things that you had done wrong that you wanted to correct?
Yeah, yes and no. So by the time I finished Athens, I'd known I was going to Oxford. I knew actually that everyone was turning up a couple of days after Athens had finished. And I said to myself, look, I need a break. I need to have a couple of weeks away. So talking with BT and Sean, arranged to come a few weeks later. But then when I got to Oxford, it was weird. So we had Barney Williams, who had just got silver in the 4 against Pinsent by beer can.
Yeah.
We had a couple of guys who were in the collegiate system who just missed out on selection for the American national team. A couple of guys who were in the Oxford 8 the year before. So we had this really strong mix of characters. And what was so interesting was that my experience to date was like, right, we're going to go in, they're going to tell us exactly how to do it. And we basically run on rails, because that's what I figured a system like Oxford would have.
Yeah, you're like a train on the tracks.
Yeah, exactly. But what I found was a process of them getting to know us. And I think definitely under Robin's kind of leadership, he realized he had, looking wild horses. And this, especially with the idea of they've all come off the back of bad experiences, himself included, myself. And I think he realized he had to be pretty careful, because if he tried to assert, this is how we're going to do it, fuck off, we're out. But he and Sean, I think, did it very, very well. And it took a long time. There was a lot of focus on rowing hard and playing hard. So, but obviously working hard. There's the 3 parts of that experience, and no one was allowed off that. So you had to go to your lectures, you had to commit, you had to do the rowing bit. But equally, everyone was there like, I need to decompress from the national team and doing all that stuff. So we went out and we had a great time. And then again, I learned like the best rowing comes from a sense of, loyalty and respect and enjoyment and passion and fun and testing yourself, enjoying it, and pain and feeling like you've achieved something. But you achieve it not because you see a number and it works for you, but you've helped a boat do something. And it's when you realize how much you can give into that system selflessly, knowing that you could get selected out of it. Again, there were 18 guys who were training around then. Most of them weren't going to make the blue boat. Most of them who weren't going to make it knew that from a long way out. Yet they still kept pushing every single day. And that was, again, I didn't know who I was as an athlete then. Am I still a fun trials winner? Or am I last place at the Olympics? Can I do the boat race course? Or crossing the boat race course, but can I get myself into this system? I didn't know. So I was a clean sheet of paper. I'd had that humbling experience where you're like, right, whatever you think is is good about yourself, wipe it clean. You're nothing. Build it up from scratch. And just watching how, Barney and Flick and Chris Lusky and Joe, who came back from being out of the system for so long because of this medical stuff, BT, just an amazing attitude and passion to do something. Now, the reality is it took us a long time to find it. And we did some pretty stupid things, not in and around the boat, but it all fed into this energy that we were building and cultivating. And again, it was intangible. It wasn't all focused out beating Cambridge. It was this weird thing of building a culture, something that you could rely on. And obviously there wasn't ever a boat too far away, but it wasn't like, right, how is this going to make the boat go faster? I couldn't tell you. We just drove a minibus into the river. That's not going to have a boat go faster. But moments like that did something more powerful than a 16K session would have done.
Yeah.
So we're turning out, technical sessions. And
we've talked a lot about it. And you look at coaches that seem to be able to make their team perform, especially if you look at, say, school coaches, someone like Bobby Thatcher, you've got different kids coming in every year, but still their performances come up to the top. Okay, well, they're school kids, so they're all of the same age. They're all training as much as they can. There's no other factors. What's the difference? You've got to look at culture being one of them. And I think also what you kind of talked about is basically sticking to the process and not worrying about what's going on at the end of it. And just understanding that the best you can do is be your best every day.
Yeah, when you were following that path, then beating Cambridge would have just been a bonus, because it was all about what you guys were doing well and about developing a system which could be successful for years. And you weren't trying to come up against the same problem year on year, which is how do we beat Cambridge now? Let's actually get ourselves off the ground, get this system in place. And then it should be easier to just sort of carry on from there.
I also think it's things like that are sort of underused, and especially when I was, I remember doing a 23 camp and Shep saying, right, our second session is going to be football. And we're like, what a joke, we're not going to bother doing this. But obviously it turns into a very competitive, working together, doing your best, trying to do all of that. And I think good coaches realize that the more your team is friends with each other or knows the backstory or understands each other, the more you're going to want to not give up when it gets tough.
Contrary to sports like swimming, maybe gymnastics, cycling, the individual sports, they don't and will never have that moment of experience, the camaraderie you need, the depth of relationship you need to execute your absolute best performance versus an individual sport versus a team sport.
Yeah.
And that's where rowing is so important.
Definitely. You spoke about having a lot of athletes being part of that blue squad that you knew from the get-go they weren't going to get selected. But I guarantee if you were to present them with a choice you're in the boat, but you lose.
Yeah.
They probably wouldn't take that because you want your club to win overall.
Absolutely, yeah. No, and that was the same for all of us. I think a lot of selfless decisions were made in that time, which inevitably created the win.
Yeah, keeping your hands away from the windows. Not risking that.
I also think, again, we spoke about a little bit, Dave Brow sort of put it well, but I certainly feel like there's times when that voice comes in the middle of the race and is telling you to let up, and you're thinking, I do want to, but this guy behind me's just had a year out of injury and this is his foot. There's no way I can, I've got to do it for him. I've got to do it for the other people in the crew. And that's what can keep you going. I think that's why I probably never very good single sculler. There's almost more motivation always to not let my friends down.
Yeah. And I completely agree. And I think that's what I absolutely love about Campbell is he had that sense of camaraderie. Yeah, Alan. But he had it and an internal monologue in his head. That was amazing, astonishing. It's what all the great single rowers, but any individual sport champion has. Is that internal monologue to do it, to keep going, and to have that conviction.
We spoke to Jack Beaumont, and he said about Alan. He was like, Alan never hid what he knew.
Yeah.
He was like, what's going to make me faster is if I can make you guys faster and you can start pushing me.
Nice.
Like that was like the theory of I'm never going to kind of like keep myself on the top and away from you.
Yeah.
I'm going to do everything I can to make you guys faster because I know you'll push me. I thought that was a great way to think of it.
Yeah, definitely. It's just like raising the standard of everyone around you is just going to improve your environment and thus, by extension, improve yourself.
Yeah.
So how did the blue boat racing go? Did you get selected?
Yeah, I mean, it was the crazy ride about that one was Sean put us in the stroke seat, which I'd always been a four-man, sit in the middle, just don't mess it up, just all hard. And my everything to that point was always just about of anyone who's got to end themselves the most, it's going to be me. That's my job. I don't row well. I don't, obviously I'm not responsible for any rhythm parts. Just get your head down and work your ass off. And then suddenly Sean's like, right, you sit in the stroke seat today. Why? And it's like, well, he's obviously testing other people. He wants to see, a sort of seat racing scenario. So anyway, for whatever reason, it worked in his eyes. I think he was out in Mecanenza. He first tried it in our training camp. And it just stuck. I definitely carried with me into the stroke seat was that sense of, who am I as an athlete? I've just come last at the Olympics. I've got, I was just the meat rower in the middle of the boat. So I think I had to open my ears and eyes as much as I could and absorb everything that was going on around me. And I think that sort of started to define what I wanted to do in the stroke seat, which was the stroke man's job is to follow the team behind you, work out actually what their strengths are and help them do it better. So if that meant I had to change, now that obviously transferred down the line, I'm sure a lot, but at the beginning, it was really like, listen to what the coach is saying, try and translate that as best I can. So the crew, what he's telling them is what they need to see in front of them.
It's a really interesting perspective. Most people are like, I've got the keys now. I'm in charge.
Yeah. It's, So, I mean, that's, I kind of think that was that's the one I tried to do at the beginning anyway. And obviously with the likes of all those people I mentioned in the crew, I just tried to, again, almost imagine myself in the fourth seat. Just don't mess it up. We do have a good rhythm. We do have some strong guys. The whole crew was strong guys. We were the beasts. And then, and we definitely struggled. Like we weren't in some of the training pieces. We went to Dawn and did some time pieces. And we're like, is your watch slow? Because I'm pretty sure that's a really terrible time. Anyway, but then when we got to the start line, I think it really was a culmination of all the experiences we've had as a crew. We did have some good sessions. We did know when the boat was going well. We were all pretty revved up to the max. And when revved up, that translates into bordering reckless behavior. But because of our commitment to the team, that recklessness was totally focused on how to get faster.
It's a super fine line, isn't it?
Super fine line, yeah. And I mean, I don't know if any other day that would have won that race. No idea. It was sort of that. I'd love to think we would have done it. But when we set off, I mean, we set off hard, obviously with intent, but we really set off as one crew, and we were willing to go into battle. And that's really, I think, you're on the tideway. It's not going to feel great.
Yeah.
It's not going to feel pretty. It's going to feel the noise, everything, all your cues are off because you've suddenly got just massive noise at the start line. Never have that in a rowing race. So, think because of that sort of ability to marry that, just that rough and get on with it, which is kind of what I think we've had in training, with then sort of everything slotting together. It just, I mean, we were down, we were sort of half length down going through mile. So there's sort of, it wasn't like we walked away. I think we showed like real resilience in the crew attitude to row together, and stick together and believe in each other. And without a doubt, we dug deep. That hurt a lot, that race. And even, going through Barnes as we started to pull away and the water was really starting to flatten out, there wasn't a moment where we let off. Every stroke was a chance to punish yourself harder. Being dickheads for most of the year, I really sort of make it worthwhile. Really sort of, I think there was a lot of strokes that were apologising to various parts of the support scene for the amount of chaos we caused, and we exercised the venom of demons in that race. But then I had obviously friends in the Cambridge boat, TJ, and a few others, and we knew how much they'd put in. But then that's also testament to the event and your performance is how good the opposition are. And it was again, I just learned so much. You say you can't learn from wins, but had we lost, I'd have learned. You could have picked up a lot of things of what you wouldn't have done. But I learned so much because we actually started to figure out, well, what are the important things? We actually did do these things, and actually it helped us. And it's stuff you wouldn't ever probably say to a crew you should go and do.
Yeah.
In hindsight, now I think, well, if it's the right people in the right boat, then
you got to coach what's in front of you.
Yeah. You've got to have trust and belief in this. And
I was like, I don't know if you've seen The Last Dance, the Michael Jordan documentary.
Yes.
And looking at how Phil Jackson managed, what's his name?
Yeah, the crazy guy.
Yeah. Rodman.
Oh, yeah.
To be able to get the performance out of someone who was just needed to be handled completely differently. I thought it was quite interesting.
Well, that's the thing. You turn up on a day with the right attitude, and it looks like all the ingredients came together. Yeah. And if what you said about the attitude when you started the race, I mean, if I was Sean, that's exactly the kind of setup that I would have liked you guys to have had before you go on the start line. All fired up and just ready to shoot in every direction.
So it sort of sounds like that had kind of certainly being put in the stroke seat and that going right probably had an effect on how you viewed yourself as an athlete. Do you think that was a big part of then you sort of having a bit more success at the back end of that year internationally?
Yeah, I think there was some between the boat race and the 2004 trials win with Partridge. I mean, those two events were raw, really sort of both underdog situations. Albeit 2004 Pinston Cracknell didn't race because King Cracknell had a sore throat. Apparently, no, I'm sure he did. But anyway, that again, that pairs race with Alex learned a hell of a lot about myself because, obviously Alex had some amazing pedigree at that point, and I was always underneath him in that respect. But again, because one of us had to be in the stroke seat, the role of the strokeman and working with Alex to figure out him as much as to figure out myself, and to sort of work out really some of the stuff we did in Varese beforehand. Again, it wasn't standard rowing stuff. I think because I wasn't a young rower, I kind of brought different things and thoughts to it. Some stuff I'm sure he would never have experienced at school or at Brooks. And we we approached the race quite differently. We created a race program, which is basically go for home from 7:50 out. And I remember going through the heat, semi, and then final. And I was like, Alex, we've got to get that 7:50 call right. And he was like, the third in the heat was like, yeah, go, mate. Like, that's cool. And then the semi, like, come on, like, give it more. I want you to pull me around, like, just go on. So we added it more. And it's like, nice, like, can I do it? So I remember we get to 7:50. I just went, it's just like beast came out. I was just like, great. I wanted everyone else in that event to hear it. I wanted every coach to hear me. I remember one of the coaches had a video, and I think Rachel's, she said some comment, Rachel Crawl, and said something about, like, something, anyway, it was a real, in my head, like, adrenaline peaked, like, the great, like, nothing else existed. And we just booted it. And we just clicked into that's a top end rhythm, which you can do for a period of time, and just walked away. It just felt amazing. And that confidence that came from that moment, especially with it being in a small boat, you have so much more impact. That I learned a huge amount then, going into an 8 where you can't do that. You then learn how to react and to exercise that same level of adrenaline peaking, but in a completely different way. Those moments really sort of were the cornerstones of my career in terms of going from a shit kicker who just pissed people off and it was crap, to actually someone who could be part of a winning team.
Awesome.
That's amazing to hear how that's developed. I'm sure some people are going to have the recollection of an absolute lion in the strokes, who just shouting at 7:50 go for home. But that's like, whenever I've watched back your races, it's exactly what you've just described. That's what you could see, like that true intent and just like booting it and not letting go and just like really working hard with every stroke and just grafting, and every inch that you've gotten in the race that you've worked for, and you could see that it wasn't coming easy.
Yeah, no,
basically.
So how was
felt
it?
like that?
Yeah. How did it feel then in 2005 to get selected to the 4, being in the sort of Jürgen's flagship event, flagship boat even?
Really interesting for me. Sorry. I'm going to rewind. After 2004 final, after final trials in 2004, we came back home after, obviously it was in Haswinkle, got back home a few days, all met at the gym in Hammersmith, in IC, down in Putney, having had a few days off, and it's like, right, that was final trials. This stuff gets decided. So what's been decided? You've just won trials. So we go into the room, and Alex is not there. I'm like, right, okay. And then Steve said, right, okay, so basically Alex has gone into the 4s group, and we're all trading in the 8. And I was like, wow, okay. So, there was a big moment of real, I guess it was like, it's almost like there were no shits given. Like, it's just a result. Yeah. For me, it was massive. It was career defining.
Yeah.
And for everyone else, it's like sort of, not for everyone else, for the coaches, it just felt like they didn't, I should just swallow that and get on with it. So a big part of me was quite bitter. And obviously it didn't help that at the time, my past psychology of never fitting in, the Hammersmith group being outside of Jürgen's bit, and then obviously Alex going up and then joining the team at Leander. And so that sort of divide became bigger in my mind. And you know, a lot of my training was motivated by that divide. So, you know, especially, you know, so we obviously had Athens, which was a massive disappointment. We had the boat race, which was a massive achievement. We had them final trials straight after with Pete and just destroyed everybody, including Alex and Steve, who were the remaining pair from that boat. And again, you know, a lot of my passion was driven by the previous year or what happened as being, you know, and again, I mean, I won't make apologies for it, but I am now not of this energy, but it really was, I'm not Leander athlete. I am Oxford or Molesey.
Mm-hmm.
And those sort of drivers really sort of keyed into my identity, which definitely didn't help on a lot of occasions. You know, it's part of my destructive element. You know, I think everyone has a self-destruct button in various ways, and that was mine. So getting into that stroke seat was, I don't want to say bittersweet, but there was a yin yang. There was a conflict in being in that stroke seat, and especially because we were training at Leander. I wasn't a Leander athlete, and obviously, a lot of the guys took the piss out of me because, you know, there were stories of other athletes eating their sandwiches in the car park and just being a dickhead, and I didn't take it that far. You know, I ate the food there, and I had the joy of training there, and it is a great place to train. There's no two ways about it. But, you know, the bottom of me, there was still this grate of my past being swept aside, or the fear of my past being swept aside and just being that Leander athlete. And I say just because I know you know, the club has a great training program, and I'm not undermining what people do there individually. But I guess it goes to that entitlement bit of, and whether you like it or not, as Leander athletes, you are seen as entitled because you have the best. And I know you don't have that inside. I've spoken to enough Leander athletes to know how hard you work, and you're just the same as everybody else.
Yeah, we've discussed this a lot as well. It's as an athlete, you will always use whatever you have to your advantage. The underdog advantage is we're not the best, but we don't have the best equipment. And when I was at Leander, I knew friends who rode in Molesey who would really aim themselves at us. And of course, because if you're at Leander, you say, well, you've got the best equipment and the best. And if you're not, you're like, let's fucking get them. And I think sometimes it really gets the hate just really, it can come across as, oh, we hate this club or we don't like this. It's just, you just grab hold of whatever you got.
Yeah.
The example I used again was, if you don't have to go through the rep, you will sit there with your crew going, oh, we've got more.
Yeah.
If you do have to go through the rep, you'll sit there and go, one more chance at racing. It doesn't matter what's in front of you. You got to use it to your advantage. So I've never had any issue with people saying, we're fucking coming after you.
And you're absolutely right as well. Once you become a Leander athlete, essentially you just join a system. You're part of a system. You're just, I guess, a number. So I guess individually, maybe you do amount to less, but that's just what it takes to be that part of that big machine. So I totally understand that sentiment as well.
But I think for me, though, sitting in that boat, I was no longer racing against Leander. I was in danger of becoming Leander. And therefore, everything I owed, that sense of responsibility I owed to Molesey, to Shep, almost to Ed and Staffs, and all that would have been wiped away because people think I'm just therefore from that club. And that's, if you outside of the boat around rowing, I spent so much of my time trying to assert, and I still have it today. People still think I'm a Leander athlete. No.
Who? I don't know who.
Well, no, you won't, but people from a bit further out to the field.
Right.
I mean, in the same way that so many people way out of the sports of rowing think I'm from a private school.
Right, yeah.
And, have rowed since and I've got silver spoons coming out my arse because that's what they think of the sport. It's those senses of identity. It's that pride that you associate and that responsibility that when you're executing your big race and you're thinking like, I hope it's worth it because I've sacrificed so much for this person, that person, that club, da 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 da. If there's a threat to that perception, for me that hurts. That's like, if I can't fight for Leander, even though I probably owe them some of my career because I've trained there, like I will fight for Molesey. And for me, that was so important. And it wasn't, like you say, I wasn't trying to beat Leander. I wasn't racing them. I never raced Leander, well, except the A7 thing. But, that moment and that passion wasn't to beat you, wasn't to beat Leander. It was just, let me be Molesey.
Yeah.
But you weren't stopping me being Molesey. It was the perception of everyone else. So whenever I tried to project Molesey, I was seen as this disruptive, overly sort of political club guy. And I was like, really, it's not that.
Yeah.
I just wanted to be, I just had to, because, again, it's like, because Leander's got such a big presence in the sport, it's just very easy to be labelled as Leander. You never had to really project that you're probably the opposite. You probably are happy to rein it in a little bit because you're always seeing your club identity, from Henley Royal Regattas, even to the international scene. You always see, I think I'm a club leader, right? Of my, near where I live. And, we've got clubs, we've got about 20 odd clubs. And one of the girls, she wears this Leander cap. And I'm like, why a Leander cap?
You're messing with me.
Yeah. I'm like, it's like this little thing. And it's just not a thing, but it is a thing. It's just like, it's testament to the success and the money you guys have and the privilege of the position you guys have at Henley. Leander Club wouldn't exist if it was in Milton Keynes.
Yeah.
It will be whatever clubs. And it's not your fault.
Yeah.
And none of it went out with an intent to sort of become, you've obviously, exactly as you said, you make use of what you got in front of you. And exactly the same way you got Caversham down the road now, you just do it. Of course you would, The widest thing about how then British rowing reacts around that's a whole other story. But again, so for me, going into the four as a Molesey athlete was massive because it was the first time a non-Leander person had really been in that seat.
Really?
Was it? Because,
I didn't realise that.
Yeah, after, obviously, like, when I've come up and I've seen your success and everything, like, it was so known that you're Molesey, you're not Leander, the different blazer and everything, different tie, the history. I guess it's nothing against Leander. You just wanted to show that you can also, like, do this thing without the help and the support of that system, that it was possible to do it outside. And maybe, like, it was to inspire other people, but also I agree on, like, a grander scheme of things, like, it's not good if just one club swallows everything up, because, like, how will others feel? Like, that's why I'm really, really glad that we have a Brooks Leander rivalry right now. There's not just one club, one system, and
performance sectors in general.
Yeah, well, that's the thing. Like, monopolies aren't that great, especially in sport, because it can get too politicized too quickly. So, like, on one hand, what you've done in 2005 is still, like, echoing today in the sport, and, like, for a good effect.
Well, it's always been. If it wasn't me at Molesey, before it was IC and Queen's Tower, before that it was Notts County. Yeah. There's a long lineage of people trying to fight. The consistent thing is it's always against Leander. And again, it's not your fault.
Yeah.
You just kind of got lucky with being in the right place, with the right land.
Yeah, we both came right at the bottom. Both came in at the bottom in development squads. And
yeah. And that's the thing. Like, it does have a great opportunity, but what it desperately needs, what Leander needs, and unfortunately, whichever way you think about it, Batman needs its Joker. Mm-hmm. You have to have the rivalry. Mm-hmm. And the problem with the sport is still Brooks is a university and Leander's a club. There's no league.
Yeah.
There's no formal structure where you guys race each other except for head of the river.
Head race.
Because even Henley, you can select which boats, which crews you take, and you can take sort of different paths. And that is a massive issue. It's why the sport's so damn boring. It's because we've gone down, I don't think, this is another conversation, but For me, in that boat at the time was a moment when I could say, there is a rivalry, and we're working here together. Me and my Leander mates, we're going to fucking win this race and we're going to go win the Olympics. But when we get out of this boat, there's a beating heart out of Henley. And that became my total. So when I came at captain of Molesey, my mission was, how do we, as a club captain, how do we compete against Leander? So, it was gloves off. I pulled in as many athletes as I could, same rules. We tried to make sure we had enough guys coming through the development team. And we tried as hard as we could to get as close as we could.
That's awesome. That's awesome because, like you said, rivalry, we talked about this with maybe the Paralympic 4 being the exception, but you don't see crews break world records 15 seconds clear of the pack. You don't.
Yeah.
You need that.
Yeah.
That race. Yeah.
Plus, Tom, you also spoke about this. You'd see an article that says 15 Leander athletes going to under 23 championships, etc. And it's where the hell were you all year? Because it's just me and this other guy.
No, really, yeah.
There was a sense certainly from being in there all year, and then it comes to the end of the year, and then all of a sudden, all these uni people that finish uni, they come down, they put the badge on, and you're like, there was 3 of us training here, but there's 12 in the introductory team. And certainly, obviously, you can discuss the rights and wrongs of it and all the rest of it. Location has benefited them in terms of taking on squad athletes, and but they do work on. I've come through the development, Will Satch, but Al Sinclair, a lot of us come through that development thing. It's a difficult beast to go up against. So it's pretty cool to hear that was a big part of what you were trying to do.
And look, those things you experience, parachuting in athletes is a bad thing. I know it badly affected some of our longer term athletes at Molesey. It pushed them out of boats they probably could have been, or they would have been in if those other athletes hadn't turned up. That's a symptom of a club-based system which hardly grows at the club.
Yeah,
it's our collegiate system. We're not professional. We can't compare ourselves to full-time athletes and full-time positions. But in terms of what you do to create the wins, again, it was another big lesson of how does Jürgen keep winning? What are the rules that he won't break, and what are the ones he will, and what are the ones he bends? Short-term versus long-term wins. It's a very, very complicated picture. And again, going back into sustainable winning, it's lessons you've got to learn from both sides. And it's not easy. It's hard decisions because, at the end of the day, where you might see it as unsustainable to parachute athletes in, Leander's still winning. Molesey's, London was our most successful Olympics as a club. So half of the heavyweight men's team were from Molesey, or rode under the Molesey badge, and the other half is Leander.
It's changed a lot now with Brooks.
Which is, and the rivalry is great because actually for the first time I'm actually interested in the 8-head results because I want to see how well Brooks did against Leander. And I'll also look at Molesey and a few others. But, that rivalry is what's interesting. And really, if someone has a good row, but wins out that, great, well done. We've all had good rows.
Yeah.
But when there's a battle and there's a fight and you actually see how close it was, yeah, come on.
How many times did you rewatch the ladies' plate final from last year?
Yeah, exactly. They still do the ladies' plate. Joking.
So I want to ask specifically in regards to the politics of it a little bit, but what was that feeling? I guess in 2005, world champion, first time you'd done it. Like you said, having gone through those sort of things and the politics of it all, was that a sense of I'm here, I'm arrived, or is it just on to the next one?
It was a moment to enjoy, but it was the start of the Olympiad.
Yeah.
And through the World Cups, again, I think one of Jürgen's big things is he breeds confidence. That's his job. The main part of his job is give an athlete the confidence to do things normal people wouldn't think they're capable of. So we were never, I think he always steered clear of arrogance. I'd like to think that for myself, although there were definitely moments where I had to be arrogant. But as a system and as a sort of culture within the boat, like, we knew we could beat the Dutch. We knew we could beat the Germans. They were the main two rivals at the time. So the biggest challenges was dealing with like 40-degree heat, humid conditions out in Japan, which was just so hard. But finishing it was first world championship. Yes, that's, massive ticks in the boxes. I think, the passion which we delivered that final, we were executing in training all the way. We were obviously always learning, and it was sort of part of that. I don't want to say part of the process because it makes it really dry. There was much more than that. That race was part of the enjoyment I had in the sport at the moment. I was rowing with 3 legends. We were challenging ourselves. We were doing new things. I was in this new seat where I felt for the first time I was really making something happen rather than that I was good at, rather than being useless and just messing stuff up. I'm just running to video and felt being pushed out. So it was the polar opposite. But it wasn't just that one final, it was like the whole time. So the final was, it just sort of, it was to really underplay it was just business as usual. Just had a great race. It hurt. That's good. We rode well. Not great. It wasn't the perfect, but doesn't need to be. Mm-hmm. Still kept our nose in front. And then, where are we going to next? We were climbing. We're off the tarmac. We were climbing and the engines felt good. We still needed more altitude. We were on our way.
Yeah. That was the start of an unbeaten streak, if I recall correctly, because for the next 3 years...
Let's not do unbeaten streaks. I don't like unbeaten streaks.
A bit more tense every time you try and defend it.
No, there's just an unbeaten streak where I'm always coming second to him.
It's one of them,
We'll get onto that too.
Yeah. Sure.
But that was like one of the... I guess that must have been like one of the fastest boats that you've been in since coming back from Athens. Like getting into the 4 with obviously Steve, Alex, and Pete. That was the combination. And obviously you guys were rapid and unbeaten for a very, very long time. No one could touch you for absolute ages. So like, I guess, did it feel like that at the time, like during that Olympiad leading up to Beijing?
I think it felt like it felt like the next event was ours to lose. Not too far in the distant future. And we knew that, I think it was just our attitude, we just had to try and be better every day. There was no complacency. Trials were still active. We were still being chased by, being pushed by the rest of the team. Again, as Gamble, said, you want your opposition, whether it's your teammates in trials, whether it's your opponents internationally, to be as strong as they can be. Because if you want to find out where you're best, you need someone to be kicking the shit out of you. I think, it was just in our DNA just to keep pushing. And when you're encouraged by getting faster and you start knocking off some of the, to training markers, whether it's on rowing machines or on the water, you sort of knock off a Pinson's PB or something, or a Cracknell or this on the water, you feel good and you push on a bit harder. And Jürgen was a real master of that, part of that, giving an athlete confidence to push harder and keep going. So it was a good time. And you just couldn't break in that. I personally felt, actually, I did have a few pretty good back injuries. But it's weird, like it lasted for a couple of weeks. You'd be out of a boat, you'd be on the bike, you get back into it, you get a bit of confidence back, and then you just forget all about it, and it goes back to trying to break yourself.
So you repeated again, obviously in 06 gold. 07 Worlds was the fourth, but it was it Steve who got out crew change at the last minute, wasn't it?
Yeah, Steve had a what do you call it? He fractured his neck. Which you look at the guy then and you're like, yeah, I can see how that could happen. But you just think about that as a stress fracture.
Yeah.
Slowly separating your vertebrae. It's hard.
Yeah.
Like that takes real. So we knew he was a tough bastard then.
Yeah.
But we had I think because of a number of things that had happened, we weren't clicking as a crew.
Yeah.
That was
But it didn't necessarily. It wasn't. It would almost be more of a worry, wouldn't it, if everything had gone well and then come forth, you're like,
oh yeah,
crap, we're off the pace. Whereas all these things have happened, and so it wasn't necessarily like back to the drawing board.
Yeah. No, we had reasons for what and again, you got to ask yourself the big questions of like, are we just making excuses?
Yeah.
But that's where you have to really rely on your coach and give you that guidance, give you that, because only he could really see. Again, it's another big lesson in having that trust, and not, if there is a real reason why something didn't go so well, then don't destroy everything because you think it's something more than it is.
Yeah. So then going into sort of Olympic year 2008, like having said that, still had a lot of confidence in what you were doing and where you could go. Obviously, the aim must have been for the gold.
I imagine there was hunger after Athens to be like, okay, here's my next chance. Like, it's time to like really solidify what we've been working on the last few years and just get ourselves on that medal podium.
Yeah, definitely. And obviously from after 2007.
Yeah.
We also had Johnny Singfield started to come in and help us a little bit. So he sat with Jürgen, and he introduced a few different concepts and very different rowing coach to Jürgen. And actually, they worked together really, really well. I think, we definitely performed better because of some of the stuff that Johnny gave us. But yeah, we ended up, I think, climbing back psychologically on top and thinking, right, how do we execute our best rather than, how do we not lose?
Yeah.
And that was, as far as I remember, a good sort of run up through the World Cups, good run through the sort of final training camps. And we arrived pretty buoyant. I mean, I don't know if you remember, but is it the semi-final, the rep? Going into the final, we were the only crew who had been in the final the previous year. So the Dutch didn't make it, the New Zealanders didn't make it, the Germans didn't make it. So we were in a final in the Olympics with nobody who we'd raced in the final with. And part of this is like, well, shit, now this should be really easy, right?
Yeah.
And then we knew the Aussies, they were the guys who didn't make the 8. So like, second boat territory, great.
Yeah.
So I think we felt pretty good. And then we went through so we won all our races, and we're going into the final, we're like, again, this is for us to lose. We know we're strong enough. We know we can row this boat fast enough. We just have to do our normal run-of-the-mill business, which means a lot of pain. We're going to have to row ourselves into the ground, but hey, that's what we do on a daily basis. So great. We have to stick together. We know we can do that. We'll just, get our nose in front and just command the race and do all the bits. And I think we'd had identity, our rowing identity had become that we were happy to chase people down in the last quarter. Fine.
I mean, that's sort of the job, isn't it? Like, the only way to beat the crew that's been on top that long is to try and shake and get out in front. So exactly. You kind of have to get used to that.
Yeah. And we were kind of really singly focused on, our race profile As long as we've got a good race profile, we know we're getting 100% out of ourselves, then it doesn't matter what anyone else can do. I think you can do that as an athlete, as a coach. You start panicking. But yeah, going into that final, we were delayed a bit because there was some weed on the rudders, stuff like that.
Oh yeah, Rick told us there was some guy some Chinese guy in speedos,
speedos and little goggles, dipping around beneath the boat. This is really weird. Yeah, we what was it? I mix my metaphors all the time, so I said something completely idiotic, and the crowd had a bit of a laugh, and so we were generally up for it, but quite relaxed in a nice way.
Awesome.
So we obviously,
how was the race?
We start off and get into a good rhythm. Our boat felt good. Okay, Aussies are playing games, whatever. Yeah, so we're committing to our race plan. Pete was giving the calls, and we go through halfway, and it's like, I can't even see their stern. This is okay. This is right. They're definitely going to blow. They're definitely going to sort of realise they need to just calm the fuck down. And then we sort of top 50, 1500. All right, this is going to really hurt. And I'm definitely not known for my sprinting. I can't do it on the rowing machine. I don't really sprint. I knew the guys behind me. Looking at certainly Pete and Stevie. TJ's he loves to lead in the middle of races. Because he's just a damn good athlete, damn good rower. So we're like, right, let's dial it up. And there was, I can't remember the crowd, and I think that's because there wasn't much of one at that point. I can't remember too much of what was going on. I don't think it was panic, although it wasn't far off. But there was, there was a sort of moment when you start to enter the depths of what you're capable of. And also when you're being cheered on, and there's a positive sense of, there's a positive attention, a drive, you get that adrenaline buzz, which is kind of what you need to excel. For me, it came from the opposite direction in that one. So I still had, because of those 4 years gearing up towards Beijing, because of the sacrifices I'd made ever since I certainly went to Molesey, how hard it was going through that time, both sort of adapting as a stupid kid from Yorkshire coming down to Surrey, didn't really fit in so many places, missing out on loads of stuff, some really key things in life, which I always classify them as sacrifices, because I made a very clear decision that I wouldn't make in any other scenario. It was, I have to do this. Now, this is not my choice. It's just all those things, that fear, that anger, definitely a bit of politics in there. Not that Leander Morsey was going on in my head, but all the emotions that drives up was kind of welling up for me. It's like, shit, none of that was worth it if we don't do something right now. And all that emotion was really sort of flooding into my system. And as we went through the last sort of 500, and we're starting to gear up, just the power and the intensity and the rate just started going. And then, I think the last we heard from Pete was about sort of 300 meters to go. And, you got your peripheral vision. If you can't see their stern, you're fucked. And just start going crazy. you just start, what does it feel like to do your power strokes on an ergo? You know, when you're flat out, just 10, just going batshit crazy. It was that. And then you do that again. And then slowly I started to see their stern. And then you think, fuckers, I've got you. I'm not going to stop now. And then you just kept going and, you know, sort of counting 10 in my head. And just, again, like the cues from the boat were there. I could feel the guys behind me. We didn't split. We had done this in training. We were practiced at it, but we'd never done it at the end of 1,800 meters of racing. Mm-hmm. And yeah, crossing the line was, I mean, the pain was intense. You know, that there wasn't a sort of instant elation. There was a deep amount of gratitude. You know, again, like for what me and Pete had been through trials, through Oxford, you know, there was a lot of love. But it was that moment of like, really like realizing actually what it means to deliver your best performance. Yeah. How much it's going to hurt, how much you're going to have to rely on every emotion you can conjure to get the adrenaline high enough to combat the pain.
So it's amazing to hear what you drew on. I also love to hear that where you talking about, I'm not a sprinter, but I know the three guys behind me are. And it's sort of back to when you said you first got in the stroke seat and you understood your role was to get the best out of the three people behind you. Mm. And then to kind of hear that come back. Mm. And in that moment when you needed it, I think is something that maybe a lot of rowers don't necessarily realize that could be, or could be used in that way, as opposed to like, right, I'm going to take this on and drive this and you three better follow me now. Yeah. So no, I'm going to do what's going to let you work. That's awesome.
Also, just to show, you know, like before the buzzer went and the race started, you said like, okay, this should be, we're fairly relaxed. Like we know what we're capable of. And then like for that to happen throughout the course of the race and just to like show where you had to go psychologically in the middle of the race to just like bring yourself back up to, like you said, excel and just bring excellence to everyone else who was watching the Olympics is just, you know, we wonder about it a lot, but like just to hear it firsthand, it's just pretty epic, you know?
Yeah. I mean, maybe we were too blasé going into the final. We certainly weren't. It was a different approach in London and a different approach in Rio.
Yeah.
And very different. And but both of those were different from each other, but it was, actually thinking about it like that, I can understand why Jürgen said to us what he said in London now. Yeah, actually that makes complete sense.
Sometimes when you feel it reflect, you can see things.
Yeah, absolutely. And you put it on the table.
So after Beijing, did you know you wanted to continue or was it still all up in the air?
Yeah, you know, you compare yourself against the greats, right? And what's one gold medal? Who cares? It means nothing.
It's the story of Cracknell, isn't it? When Cracknell won his first and then Jürgen came up to him and said, anyone can get one, James. And he's like, he knew what he was doing, but in that minute, in that second, he was still like, damn it. Yeah, I've got to go back now.
Yeah, look, I mean, I definitely viewed myself as someone who still had more to offer. Yeah. You know, I had more I could do. My results were still improving.
What age were you in 2008?
I was 27.
Yeah. Wow, so a year older than what I am now.
So, but that's the thing, like you peak at 30, right? I'm sure of it. And if you have a lifestyle that can facilitate it, then, you know, you will keep going. And yeah, and there was definitely a few things that I'd seeded in my mind through that Olympiad, which was like, I want to try that. But I knew I couldn't try that at the time because I hadn't done enough to warrant making that decision.
Yeah.
Or being part of that process. So, I was definitely going to carry on. There's no question on that.
Cool. I guess we already said, like, because we're going to run out of time today to, like, go through the rest of your career, we're going to have to, like, bring you back for part 2.
Yeah, okay.
But, like, with leading up to Beijing, I wanted to to sort of like ask, because you said like, you know, knocking off like some big like PBs that other people have like put down on the board, like physiologically, how were you able to like step up to the levels that you did? And like, what are some of the bits of advice that maybe like some other rowers could benefit from? Because obviously you are renowned for being an absolute monster on the rowing machine and just like indoor in the gym and everything. Like I've heard stories from Tom about like, you know, just sitting down and just pulling back to back 9K half hours in one go.
That one, yeah, that was good. Hey, look, so yeah, I mean, everyone's going to have their strength. You know, if you get that far in the sport, I was useless at my 10-10s. You know, I could have pulled hard. I think I pulled hard in some of my 2Ks than I did on those sprints. I wasn't particularly strong in the gym. I was always on the bottom end there. My power was how hard I could go for a long time. So the joke was always, you know, what I could pull for an hour was what I could pull for 10 strokes. You know, it was, so yeah, so when I could dine out on it, I obviously did. And we were in a Viz. We did that. We're doing a 20K row, and everything was just feeling amazing. We were doing big mileage, and you know when you get into a big mileage camp, you start getting your body clicks into it. So we sat down for a 20K row on an erg because it was foggy or something, and it just felt so light and easy. So I was ticking along at like 141s, thinking, hang on a minute, like I can have a play with this. So I just nudged it to 139s. Grade 19, I was just ticking along. And I was like, I can do this. So I just stayed at like 139s. I think I averaged 139.7. And then, so did it 16K. No, was it 18, would have been just over 18K, so 2.5 hours. Got a lactate just to check I wasn't going too crazy. And then finished it off. So 20K. And it just was... It was like moments like that, you just felt completely invincible, you know, and, you know, when the half hours were going up and up. But then other guys had their moments, like Pete, when he was like bench pressing Ryan Wall and I could squat. Just like, and, you know, he does one, he's like, oh, I got a few more, hang on, you know. You're just like, Jesus. And then, you know, and you see it from time to time in all of the athletes. So the big advice is, look, when you find something that works, celebrate it. Don't shy away from it. Don't think, well, I've got to work on my weaknesses. Yes, of course you're going to work on your weaknesses, but work out how that attribute is going to help your crew. You know, and I live for that. Don't be afraid to stick out. Another thing which infuriated a number of my colleagues and crewmates, but I think is a real asset, is sometimes, and certainly within a profession like the full-time scope, when you are training so much and you've got such long windows, is don't be afraid to break stuff. If it's what do I say? If it's not broken, don't fix it. Well, if it's not broken, sometimes just smash it to pieces anyway. You know, don't be afraid to dial it up or change it or rip it apart, because what you were doing, you'll be able to get back to, because it's what you were doing. It's called muscle memory. You will get back to it. It's more robust than you think. Sometimes if you've got that period where it's just going nicely, then just throw in a stupid exercise. Do something to challenge yourself in a different way. If you know it's the exercise you're particularly weak at, then challenge yourself to do it in an even more stupid way or harder way, but spend the time to really dig into it and discover actually and problem solve the fuck out of it and work out actually how you can do it better. Because even if it makes you slower for a couple of days afterwards, I'm sure the learning you'll get from it will mean that you will come out stronger. The worst case is the knowledge that you can start a race badly and you can still take action. You still got that ability to get back to what you know you can do. And that is a form of resilience which you have to have. Because there are races where you just will get knocked off. You will hit a buoy, you will do something. And part of the resilience of being a high performance athlete or performing at your best is minimizing those times when something out of your control happens.
Yeah, we talked about before a little bit as there's no success without failure. And certainly when I've coached, or I'm sure I got it from having been coached, you see an athlete not wanting to take any risk and being like, if you want to be the best in the world, you can't, you're going to have to make some mistakes on the route. You said, I want to be the best, but I never ever want to fail on the journey there. No, that doesn't exist.
You've got to generate failure sometimes. You absolutely have to. And it's what's interesting, and I've learned since, is in the world of entrepreneurship, it's probably some of the closest areas to being a high performance athlete is you have to take risk. You have to invest into something you don't know if it's going to work, but you have to use your experiences and your kind of risk registers and various things to make sure that the risk you're taking is proportionate. So you're not going to do it 2 days before your big final.
Yeah.
You do it early in the season. You do all these things, but you have to take that risk.
Yeah.
Because if you don't, then you're just one of the pack. If you want to win it, you have to discover something that no one else has discovered, maybe about themselves, but certainly about you. Yeah. What are you going to bring to the table? And you have to push because normal life won't discover it for you.
Yeah, I'd certainly say it's this thing I've noticed about being my own boss. I sort of feel like most people I talk to who have bosses or work for other people, one of like the number one things they'll say is like, I wish we could just do things this way. Like I've seen that this way would work, but the boss doesn't want to make the change. And I think the best thing about being your own boss is every single time that happens, you get to make the change. Yeah. And like you said, sometimes you'll make that change and a week later you'll be like, this is not fucking working.
Yeah, exactly.
Quite cancel it. But you still get to see what happens. And I think that's one of the best things that I love. I did the same thing. I used to work at a cinema in Henley whilst I was running at Leander and just being like, if they just did this, if someone would listen to me, we could make so much more money, this, that, all the rest of it.
Yeah.
It's frustrating when you go, when your boss doesn't listen. Yeah. And that's probably something that bosses can do better, to try and listen more to. You don't always have to make the changes. You can try and sit down and say, what do you think could work?
Yeah.
If you don't take risks to improve, then you just risk staying the same in the same spot and never improving. No, that's very well said. I was going to ask you about physiological resilience. How can you keep yourself at a top level for such a long time without breaking for extended periods of time? For example, how do you make sure that your back doesn't implode from just pushing yourself to like the depths that no one else in the world is doing? And possibly like maybe there was something that helped you along the way with that too?
I'd definitely say, I don't know if you knew it, but you were sort of seen as being the unbreakable athlete. And that's probably, obviously, I'm sure you had your issues with injuries anyway.
Oh, yeah. I mean, well, the first thing is like every human body has inherent weaknesses somewhere. And training at that level is all about finding those weaknesses and then hopefully adjusting what you do to compensate, or it stops your career. And every person going into elite sport has to be completely upfront and honest that they may have something within them that is not going to tolerate what you're going to throw at it. Equally, you're going to have occasions where you have to take a step back and reassess and work out how to mitigate that weakness. And I don't believe anybody can go through their athletic career without getting one significant recurring injury. And it's part of the toxicity of sport and it's going to probably reoccur for the rest of your life. And maybe you will discover it sitting in an office chair. Maybe you'll discover it, maybe it'll have to be a fused back or something, or a new hip, whatever's coming out of the amount of training we're doing. But we should never think that actually we'll get away with it, and it's the system's fault for not. If it's the system, if they don't push you hard enough, you never get an injury. It's the system's fault for not pushing you hard enough. That's what performance sport is all about. So for me, it was me and my lower back. It first went when I was racing a lightweight rower at Molesey called Ned Kitto. He was an old lightweight from the sort of 90s. Really nimble, great rower. You know, he's the sort of guy who can, you know, balance the boat beautifully and place it beautifully, and lightweight. So he was a real, you know, like to fuck over heavyweights. So and it was in my early days, and we were rowing up the stretch, and I think I was trying to catch him up or stay with him or something. And Shep was calling me a dickhead for trying to stay, you know, like, just do your own trick. Anyway, 2K in, I just felt this like on one stroke. That felt weird. Okay, I'll finish off, and then obviously probably within like half an hour couldn't get up, couldn't walk. So you like sort of hobble back to your bed, and anyway, that was the start of a recurring injury which happened. So I think I missed a Lucerne regatta once. Definitely, it would go basically like once a year, and like squats was the big thing that would aggravate it. So once I learned that, I stopped doing squats. It became more resilient. The way I rowed, I adapted, learned a huge amount about core strength. The technique of rowing became a big part of it. Actually, well, why is that bit so weak? You know, how do you even out the whole chain? So my thinking process around mitigating the weaknesses to make sure my stroke was as robust and strong as possible meant that I was looking after my injury. So again, it's just another form of responsibility. But yeah, no, I was... If you're breaking yourself, you're training hard enough. And if your coach is telling you to back off, you're training hard enough. But until you get to those points, you're not training hard enough. So for me, it was a sort of sense of validation. It did make it easier, you know, being out of a boat for a number of weeks, you know, doing bikes down at Bisham when everyone's training or the training camp, it hurts. But again, like, it's validating. Yeah. If it didn't hurt, it shouldn't be there. You know, it meant something. So again, it was all part of that journey of, for me, it's just an inevitability. Like, it's going to happen at some point. So don't externalize it. Take ownership of it. Work it out. Be better. And it's the same approach, you know, if you overdo your UT2 training and you get exhausted, then learn from it. Fucking back off. Like, work out where your limits are. You've got to violate the limits to know where the limit is. There's no way you can work out a red line by thinking, well, it's just there. So if as long as I don't go there, no. You got to step over there. You got to mean it, just to make sure it's there. Because actually, it might be way over there, and you've just been a pussy. So get on with it. You know, it's gonna hurt. You're gonna break yourself. Be prepared to take some time out, but learn from it. Yeah, and then you know where it is, and you can get on with being the best athlete because you know where the limits are.
There's a great line from Ayrton Senna when he talks about feeling like he could see where the ceiling was and then racing through it and then finding that it was actually further than he went. And that was a continuous series of breaking through the limit that you put on yourself.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And that for athletes, that relates to, well, how much training can I do?
Yeah.
You know, we all know we've got a limit. You know, if I can press 100K, you know, that's pretty undefinable limit. I'm not just going to imagine I can do 15 and load up 15 and, you know, sometimes it happens. But it really is, you know, what's healthy for me? How much can I do? Can I tolerate this? And I mean, Jürgen loved that. He was always, when we used to go to Silveretta, he always talks about bringing his East German women up there. Oh, guys, before breakfast, they would always climb up to the cross and back, and then we'd do 4 sessions a day. I were like, well, let's not dig too far into that one, but I bet they didn't do it every day.
I remember when I first had my first injection in my back in Milton Keynes, and he said, do you want gas? And I was like, I don't know, do I need gas? And he's like, oh, well, I had one of the girls in here last week and she didn't need gas.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm not going to have gas then. And then having to get my brother drive me home while I sat with the thing, like completely. I should have taken the gas.
Yeah. No, that answers it beautifully. And also it's great that you can get a recurring injury at an early stage in your career and then still continue with it for years after if you're just smart enough about your own body and your own training, if you're cerebral enough to understand what changes you need to make on how to best manage that. So no, I didn't even know about those stories. So, so just to hear that is it's pretty eye-opening.
I was not immune.
Yeah, no one is. Yeah,
no one is.
So I guess we should talk about London Youth Rowing.
Yeah,
that's the project that you've been involved with since you finished in Rio.
No, I got to know them with the company I was working with after Rio. But no, so LYR is I love rowing. I love the sport of rowing. I've got a whole ton of hang-ups about it, frustrations, things that could drive me way, way far away from the sport. But I can't ever escape what it's done for me in my life. I've no responsibility. I don't owe rowing anything. Rowing doesn't owe me anything. I'm very sort of happy with that. What LYR for me is probably at its most core is the idea of how can I extract some value out of my gold medals, because it's also that underdog component. The idea that, we need to challenge the world order. We need to make them better. We need to provide alternatives. We need to, there should be 10 high performance clubs in this country doing amazing things, but there aren't, and that's a big problem. And it's not something that's really being addressed. I'm going to stay well away from that. Because,
but why?
In life as well as in this conversation, it's just not my fight, and I would never be able to get into the right place to have it. So for LYR, what it represents is the ability to use the sport by people who would never have the opportunity to row, and to be able to get the benefits from the sport. But then for me, the best thing about it, then the success measure isn't, do they go on to row? Who cares? If they're going to row at some point, they're going to row. Like me, I found rowing and it became my thing, and off I went. And because a friend said, hey, it's fun and social. LYR's measure of success is how it turns a young kid who thinks they're shit at sport, who sits on the sidelines at PE, totally unmotivated, very close to unsupportive social groups, toxic social groups, dangerous social groups, and puts them on a journey which challenges them, say, hey, try rowing. And they think, no way hell am I going to row. It's a rich kid sport. All the kids they work with are from disadvantaged communities. They're vast majority of people premium, which is a household family income of less than 17,000, multiple generations of unemployment. It's the hardest group. It's the group of kids that are the hardest to reach within some of the toughest communities. So they don't value themselves. They don't value what they can offer. They don't know what they can offer. They're right at the bottom of the pile. When we get hold of them, we start them on this journey where the first thing we break down is that sort of cultural self-exclusion. Well, I'm not going to row because I'm not posh. Okay, well, don't be posh. But here's a rowing machine. And actually, we worked out how to get them onto it. And then very quickly, they're like, well, I can actually do this. Of course you're right. You're damn right you can. And then within weeks, they're with positive groups, all doing a similar thing. And then they start getting better. They start getting that positive affirmation. And I thought, well, actually, I can really do something here. And then we start saying, well, look, when you're doing this, you're actually demonstrating really great teamwork. That's a really good skill. And then we focus on leadership and teamwork, problem solving, aiming high and staying positive. So resilience and aspiration. So they start to understand this development on this stupid little machine with those life skills, stuff they're not taught at school. But they start to become motivated at stuff. that starts to bleed into other parts of their life.
Yeah.
So then when there will always be one subject they'll connect with science or art or English maybe, or music, but they lack that motivation to think they're any good at it, that actually it's not coming to them. So, but then through their engagement with the sport, and bearing in mind, we're not talking to footballers or basketball players, it's the kids who think they're crap. Yeah. We then link them up with companies through workshops where they start talking about their daily working life, but through the lens of those 5 skills. So, for a manager, teamwork is essential for me. Leadership. Someone else will be talking about problem solving. Someone will be talking about aspiration and entrepreneurship and driving companies forward. Someone will be like, well, I had this really tough thing here, and this happened in my life, and it's made it really hard. And suddenly all these key words, which they now think, well, I can do that on a rowing machine. I'm good at that because my coach says that. And then this person says they really value that. You start making this journey, this link. So for me, it is the most impactful form of rowing. Now, I was lucky enough to have that same journey funded by Elite Performance. I was shit at school. And until I found the sport of rowing, it was, life was empty. It was closed. It was, I was not able to construct anything in my life. After it, I went to Oxford. I've become, I've had some incredible opportunities in life, not because of rowing, i.e. directly, but because I had the confidence and the grit that rowing got out of me. And we see that in LYR all the time. And if I can support that charity with my medals, then those medals suddenly have an enormous amount of value. Like if they can actually effectively fund a charity that can change lives like that.
Yeah.
And it's not, and the nice thing is it's the same stories you hear so many times. Rowers being crap at sport, unmotivated, and rowing turning their life around. It's why the charity was created, because a banker, Jim Downing, whose kid was struggling at St. Paul's, school said he doesn't need to do less to just focus on work. He needs to do more. He's going to start rowing. And his dad was like, really? No way. And then within 6 months, he saw the turnaround that his kid had gone through and how motivated he was, how happy he was, and how saying, well, if that can happen here, then that needs to happen everywhere.
Yeah.
So now, for LYR, it's now in Leeds, Nottingham, Bristol. It's becoming a national charity. It's in a very, very difficult stage. It's just like a company. When you go through those growth phases, it's very expensive. It hurts a lot. So now the biggest value I can bring is to help fundraise for that charity. So I'm talking with companies about engaging in our team building events, kind of corporate team challenges. It's all based around team, and obviously that's an important part. It's what a lot of companies will spend money on. So we've developed these events and challenges and team days to try and help fund the charity. The biggest problem we have is we're not a cancer charity. We're not, a homeless charity. Those very emotive missions actually makes fundraising relatively easy. You go to a corporate and say, hey, we're a rowing charity, we change lives. Like, you guys don't need money. Like, you're all from private schools. You're like, no. So the journeys to get through is really hard. But the bottom line is we did an impact measurement. So it's a government standard process which governs or dictates how much social value a program brings. So we went through the process. It's a big survey. It's statistically driven, but it's comparable. So whether you believe it or not, you can compare it against different programs. And it basically said for every £1 invested in our Active Row program, it delivers £40 worth of social benefit. Wow. Now, to compare that, Sport England was assessed in the same way over all of its programs. So it's much less targeted. We are really targeted. There obviously it's much more money, spread a lot thinner. They're 1 to 4. And Park Run is, as you know, enormous, free, their social benefit is 1 to 35. So for me, for rowing to sit as one of the most impactful youth sport organisations in the country, that feels like a good home for my medals.
Yeah.
Like if anything can personify the value that the sport has given me, then it's that.
Yeah.
And then again, like part of my rub with the sport, I guess, is what I'm seeing is a charity and a group of schools and kids reinvent the sport. We're not trying to get to Henley. We're not trying to make club rowers out of any of them, but they engage in the sport in a brand new way. And in the same way, the sport needs different high-performance clubs to be competitive. The sport itself needs different versions of itself to measure, well, what is achievable. And cycling is my best example. Imagine if cycling was just track.
Yeah.
If it was just velodrome cycling.
Yeah.
Equivalent of a 2K rowing course. It would be exclusive, exclusionary, elitist, expensive.
And boring very quickly.
And boring. But so many people discovered cycling as BMX or mountain biking or cyclocross or touring or tour racing or whatever. And it's because of all the different, and you do get some crossover, but each of those versions of the sport has a different cultural identity, has a different offer. And together, they make the sport very inclusive. If you were to isolate any one of them, then you suddenly drop in that inclusivity because, that's how society organizes itself, I think.
Yeah.
And that's why LYR for me is so important, because it's the first tangible way to reinvent a part of the sport for a different culture, a different group of society.
Yeah, I've always sort of thought that it's difficult because it's expensive to let everyone try something. But at the same time, I feel like rowing, we don't do a great job at it because you'll never force anyone to go to no one's gone to the Olympics being like, oh, geez, accidentally got myself to the Olympics, That's always going to be led from the type of person it is. But you can find more of them by giving everyone a chance to do it. So there's that sense of, this is from the other side being like, there's still a chance that at some point some kid will come from London Youth Rowing and go all the way. But then the other bit of it,
I don't think they will.
You don't need, not at all.
No.
It's not for that point at all.
There are so many barriers because the kids that we deal with come from schools with a very strong cultural identity on that lower socioeconomic side. So if the one kid is with enormous amounts of talent, to make that transition culturally at such a young age, as a teenager, where you are just exerting who you are, and you think about the type of identity they have, they are very proud about how they speak, who they are, and it is very, very different to us. How they would then say, well, I'm going to become a rower and jump ship from this cultural identity where all my mates will stop recognizing me and absorb and assimilate into a club environment, or even GB Start. You then go from that club, GB Start, into a real cooker house of pressure, of performance, expectation, of that culture of athlete, coach athlete, which is stuff they just don't know. They've never been experienced of that sort of side of life. So those barriers, more than the financial and the geographical barriers, so those cultural barriers, which I think can't be made easier, because if they were, then rowing would fundamentally change, and rowing can't change. Henley has to be Henley. The boat race has to be the boat race. If they try to become inclusive, they would not be the boat race anymore, and they would stop.
Yeah.
It would be a complete reinvention, and suddenly they would have no one watching.
Yeah.
So that's the thing. It's like the sports of rowing can't expect, and in the same way that track cycling isn't particularly inclusive, BMXers are very inclusive, and you very rarely would you get a BMXer going over to track cycling. Yeah. It might go over to mountain biking, might go into tour or cycling, but they'll never go there. Yeah. And equally for the other people in the middle of other sports, like you might get a track cyclist convert to touring, but you'd never get them doing mountain biking.
Yeah.
So there are threads between, but for the most part, those cultures remain those cultures because we're humans.
Yeah.
And we gather around people we like and know and understand.
Yeah.
So if we want to make the most out of the pool of athletes which LYR is developing or opening up to, and we've got to stop thinking about, well, perhaps they will become an Olympic champion in 2K straight line rowing. We've got to think, well, how does, what does BMX look like for rowing? It's not straight line. It's bendy and curvy, and, it's completely different. And I don't know what it is because I'm white, middle class and male. They do. Yeah. So why don't we fund them and say, well, look, here's a couple of grand. Go and build your sport. Yeah. Use a machine, use a boat, but just do something fun.
Yeah.
Enjoy it. And then watch them build something new.
Yeah.
And if the sport really wanted to diversify, that's where it would be spending its money. Not on asking rowers, what should we do with this sport? Because we'll just invent
same
thing, or maybe something different, but with the cultural stamp of what we bring to it. Yeah. That's the barrier.
When you want to bring the sport to other people, like how much of what you want to bring is actually being out on the water and the catch and the drive phase, or how much is like those other things that you spoke about, that camaraderie, the resilience, your motivation, discipline, all those other skills that you're learning that really don't have that much to do with rowing, but it's what you get through from being exposed to the sport. Like, for example, like I feel like I've went through that very big cultural shift. Like I'm from middle of nowhere in Poland, and then I went to school that was outside of town. I had to take a 15-mile bus every morning. And then I was one of the only kids that started training at the rowing club, and it was just a completely new and different environment. And it's pushed me into a life where I'd never imagined I would be. And like you said, it's difficult because I stop having so many points to relate to with some of the people that I've known before in the previous portion of my life. But I really enjoy what rowing has brought to me. And it doesn't matter if it's 2K straight line racing. It's about something bigger than that. And I think sport is the sport of rowing. If exposed to more people, seeing how much good it's done to those who've we spoken to and who we've seen how their lives have changed. If we can expose that to a larger percent of the population in the country, I feel like we're just going to see an overall big benefit, and to see that you've got the 1 to 40 return on every pound invested. You must be doing great work. And we can have different types of boats. Some which are slightly easier to learn how to row into. So you're not necessarily going to have to teach them how to not fall in every session and things like that.
I think it's still. Take canoeing for instance. You've got your straight line kayaks and canoes on a course, and you got whitewater, and then you got the real adventure stuff and the coming off a cliff and the sort of kayaking.
Yeah.
That's the sort of order of magnitude. But again, it's not governed by a great idea. It's governed by the group of people who are willing to build it. And I think the sport has to invest in those people, and it makes a very conservative sport like rowing very nervous because they're going to build stuff that you don't agree with. I don't understand. How does that work? How does it fit? It's like, well, then that's a big tick in the box.
Yeah.
Beach sprint.
If it doesn't fit.
There's a lot of kickback to that. People like what they like, and they do, that's new, that's different.
Yeah.
I don't know if I want that.
But equally, even that is still so close to the sport. Culturally speaking, there's no difference.
But the other side of it, what you were sort of talking before, about what it gives the kids. And I was speaking to it's a school that you guys work with. I can't remember the school. We went to fix some ergs for them. It's just under Grenfell Tower. And I was speaking to their coach, and he was like, loved the fact that he said showing them that they can row has nothing to do with rowing. It's showing them that they can do something.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden, like you said, it's like, okay, but you might not love rowing. So what do you love? And then you put those two bits together. And I have said this before. Yeah. My life is easier because I rowed. I deal with stressful times in my life easier.
Yeah. A
lot of why my business has been successful, certainly in the last 2 years, we really sat down and went what were we good at? What made us good rowers? What were the lessons that we learned? push that into business, do the same things. And like, I know that I'm more successful and my life is better because I rode.
Yeah.
I think that's the amazing thing that you can deliver.
Yeah. And at the moment, again, going back to that sentiment of, you look at beach sprints and from the outside, it's just the same. It's just a slightly different format. But the sort of resistance around it, and I'm probably partly skeptical about it. Even for something so similar from the outside, there's still a lot of, if it's not going down this straight little narrow, Now, LYR is even further away than beach sprints in terms of familiarity. I've had a number of people say, well, you just don't succeed. You don't produce anybody. It's like, no, of course we don't. That's the whole point.
How do you measure success?
So actually, when we look for support, we've actually stopped trying to rely on rowers because no rowers get it. Even though it's the most impactful version of the sport in a charity perspective, it's I find it so hard. So if is anyone listening today who wants to support us, then please get in contact, because I think that a lot of rowers can take the same journey I have, as long as they can let go of the idea of will it make successful rowers. I don't care. I didn't start rowing back in staffs to be a successful rower. I started it because I thought it'd make my life a bit better.
I don't think any rower ever.
In hindsight, yeah.
Did, yeah.
Now to step out of that and broaden your perspective of what the sport can do, and just come down and see what we're doing at LYR, because it is so amazing. Like, I've heard times when kids have spoken in our there's a annual lunch, so it's full of Sport England people and some business people and some various rowers, and you see kids who a couple of years before would not have stood in front of their classmates, and they're standing up and they haven't written anything down. They usually do it because they want to. You haven't asked them to speak, and they just talk about how rowing has transformed their life. And that exact conversation I've heard so many times for rowers. I know we're doing it for kids. And that's the thing, like, we'll never go to the Olympics, who cares, or Henley, but just let them build something else. But that's the thing though, is we need support. It's a charity which is really struggling, and it suffers from, whenever I go to a corporate, oh, you're just a rowing charity, you don't need us. We find a few people, and it's usually the ones who have experienced the most challenges as a going through upbringing, their childhood, and then discovering something which actually made them fly. They connect into our story so well, and they become huge advocates, because we actually do stuff that a lot of other youth sport charities don't do, and which is really focus on the kids who have nothing and give them that opportunity. And it's the most valuable form of the sport.
Amazing.
I'm just thinking about what you said about if your medals can start making a positive impact. I think they already are. And you've proved 3 times at the highest level that we've proved it a few more times than that, but at the Olympics in particular, that you're the best in the world. But now actually think about how that achievement, even though you might have not known it at the time, how that's going to transfer into the life of those young kids, and how much of a positive impact really that will bring. So that's fantastic.
Just to correct you at one point, I wasn't the best athlete in the world. The crew I was with was the best crew in the world. That's what we demonstrated. There were definitely better athletes out there than me.
It's a crew sport.
I'll take that. It is a crew sport, absolutely. It's a team performance, it's not an individual performance.
Yeah.
That wasn't in single sculls. So I stand correct.
I'll be a useless single sculler. Leave that to Campbell.
Yeah.
Awesome. Are we going to do quick fires?
I think we should do quick fires, because I'm going to prepare next ones for the different. Yeah. So quick fire rounds. Out of all the rowing venues that you've trained at, raced at, or visited, what are some of your favourites?
Silveretta, just because it's absolutely stunning, and it's the place you can hurt yourself the most. Mm-hmm. Lucerne's nice. Where I started rowing in Staffordshire, place called Rudyard Lake. It's 2.5K dogleg lake reservoir. Beautiful. I've got my most incredible memory rowing out before sunlight. It was a winter morning, and as the sun rose, it was clear sky, starlit, no moon, and as the sun rose, you started to see how flat the water was, glistening on the trees from a really heavy frost, and then that mist. We were the only ones on the water, and just sort of, this is a great comment from Saatchi once said, just punching holes in glass. It was, if only we'd been half decent rowers.
Nice. If you were to repeat one race or one event when you're 60 or 70, what would it be and why?
That's a tough one. I've been... Oh, God. God. I think there's I want to say a few, obviously.
Say a few.
All right, look, Rio was mind-blowing. How that crew got itself together, conditions it came together in, the attitude of the athletes, the passion and the emotion and the drive that was dripping off everybody in that crew. How strong we were in training, and the journey we went on to find our best racing format and row, and just the fact I was back in the middle of the boat, the reinvention. There was so much in that boat. I mean, it's definitely a part two, but it was phenomenal, absolutely phenomenal execution of rowing at the highest level. Beijing was just, obviously that sprint was undesirable, but necessary. London, the crowd, being part of the best Olympic Games that's ever been. And I still think it'll knock the socks off Paris, although I'm sure they'll stay different. But the challenge Jürgen gave us the night before, and stepping up to the plate and doing something you didn't think was possible or didn't really understand or believe in, but having complete trust in each other and your coach, again, just took it to a whole new level of what real commitment was all about. The boat race. But then all the way down, the first trials win with Partridge was phenomenal. Times when we were training in Seville and we were battle paddling, and it was like with the steering foot, Cox's Fours, and just some memories of just beautiful moments where you just you need to get around a buoy because there's a swim line, so you come in and you're properly next to a crew, and we come out and you just push off and you're like, oh God, there's so many. And then there's just too many. I mean, I've been so enjoyed so many moments out of my career. It's a difficult one to answer. So
I mean, that's exactly what I want to hear, to be honest. I want to hear the reminiscing and listing off more than one. Yeah.
When we say quick fire, more normally quick for us to ask, not necessarily as Chris to answer. But the one I like to ask: if you could travel back in time to the age you were when you first fell in love with rowing, what advice would you give your younger self?
Oh,
it's not a quick one.
That is not a quick one.
It took me a long time to answer.
I think I would sit back and watch. I wouldn't do anything because if there was anything that fast forwarded my journey, I'd have missed out on something. I'd have just took that opportunity just to sort of enjoy having that moment again.
What an answer. That's amazing. That's brilliant. Exactly. I sort of said the same thing. I think if I'd told my younger self that I was going to do what I'd done, would I have still had the hunger to get there?
Oh, yeah. Definitely never say, yeah.
You can't say, don't worry, you'll win the Olympics.
No, of course not. I mean, you get 200 meters out and think, well, I'm going to win this. Just enough adrenaline wouldn't have been there. No, it's...
That's fabulous. I guess one last question. I'm going to ask my regular one next time, but this one, what is like the pre-race chat? What is like some of your favorite like Jurgenisms or like pre-race chats that like Jurgen would give you?
Oh God, the most memories, the best. It's like, what was it? Okay, guys, do your race. Yeah, your race plan. Don't be down at all. No, we can't do both of those. And just all the contradictions he came out with all the time. You were always trying to work out. And I remember having these conversations with Pete about, well, the best thing he's done is tell us several different things which contradict each other, so we can just pick whichever one we want.
Yeah.
You know, and we took the bits that we figured we needed at the time and stuck with that. And we'd usually get bollocking for not doing the other one, but, you know, we'd either be down off the first 500 or have a nice race plan or vice versa. So
I can't remember who was it that said it, maybe Henry, that said they'd asked, you know, what happened if this happens, Jürgen, what do we do? And he said something like, oh, well, we will burn that bridge when we come
to it. Exactly, yeah. Yeah, and that's the thing, like, elite performance sport, sorry, Homer, isn't a science.
Yeah.
It's not a science. As much as you try and throw as much science at it and try and work it out, try and work out why Jurgen's great and all these things, you can't do it. It's an art. It's an art form. It's always going to change with each individual, with the perspective of what it looks like and who sees it and who's around you. You can't get the mechanical answer that's right. You've got to take from the coach what you need. You've got to take from your experiences what you need, and you've got to put it together in your own crazy mix, and then mix that in with the crew's crazy mix, and hope that you got this mad mix of stuff which all threads together perfectly, or as close to perfectly as it can be. And
that's what makes it great.
And then love every bit of it for all the good bits and bad bits and bits you'd have to leave behind and bits you'd have to challenge yourself on. And yeah, it's wonderful.
Amazing.
What an answer to round off the first part of this podcast. I mean, Andrew, thank you so much for coming down and having a chat with us. I've been wanting to do this for a really long time, especially basically since we first started the podcast. Like, you've always just been a topic on the cards. Now someone that we wanted to speak to. So I just really appreciate the honesty, the authenticity, and just in general, just you sharing some of the golden nuggets that helped you obviously get to where you have. And yeah, best of luck with London Youth Rowing. If there's any way that we can help, like, we'd obviously love to help you keep promoting it. And I guess it is a cause that's also close to our hearts too. So
no, thank you. That would mean a great deal.
Awesome. And yeah, at some point, obviously, we'll try and organise, we'll get you back in. There's a lot more of your career to talk about and a bunch of other stuff. And yeah, luckily you're local, so I'm sure we'll get that sorted at some point.
Absolutely. Look forward to it.
Cool. That concludes everything for this episode. So on that note, easy there.
Cue the music.